Hello and welcome back to Student of the Gun Radio, and welcome to week number 2 of us having the video cameras turned on in the studio, so you're welcome. Now this week we've got, obviously as always, a lot to talk about. We're glad that you have taken a moment to join us, and I'm going to throw it over there to the Boy Wonder and just let you know, or basically ask him what he's got going on in his mind. Jared's over there working the board, doing the wonderful magic that he does. Jared, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well. We had a nice range session yesterday, so I'm a little bit sunburnt, but that comes with the fun, right?
Yeah, we need to remind Jared to reapply his sunscreen more than one time. I don't care what sunscreen says on it, one time, sweat-proof, waterproof. It's all lies. It's all lies. And when you're in sunny South Mississippi, you need to put sunscreen on SPF 50 like ×2, ×3.
So where are they going to go to watch this radio on video?
I don't know. Where are they going to go there, webmaster genius?
So what do you call video radio?
Video?
Video?
Video radio? Radio that's on video?
We can call it radio.
We call it like the king of all media.
There you go. I'm going to put it up on Student of the Gun's YouTube channel. That's what it's called. I was going to say Facebook, but that would take too long.
It would be silly.
Yeah. You put it up on Student of the Gun YouTube channel. You can go to the website and click on the little YouTube button, or you could just go to YouTube and search Student of the Gun, and it'll come up on there. You can watch Dad's Viking-looking face.
My facial expressions. Yeah, you can see my facial expressions when I talk about these stories because the facial expressions are half of the show. But before we get too deep into the weeds, because we're just about to step off into the weeds, we want to take a moment to thank our good sponsors, XS Sights, Keltec Firearms of Cocoa, Florida, Crossbreed Holsters of Republic, Missouri. Check them out. And, of course, Colt Manufacturing, the makers of the LE901 rifle. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start out with our XS Good Guy of the Week question. But in addition to it being the Good Guy of the Week question, it's going to be our main topic of discussion for episode 1 this week. So, Jared, go ahead and tell us who our Good Guy of the Week is and what's their question.
Before I tell you who it is, go ahead and actually, it's Scott Soderberg this week. Our Good Guy of the Week is Scott Soderberg. And Scott, I need you to email me your address, shirt size, and phone number. And my email address is Jared, Jarrad, @studentofthegun.com. And Scott's question is, in light of the Bundy Ranch events, what criteria...
Easy for you to say.
Let me take a sip of my coffee real quick.
All right, while he's sipping his coffee in 3, 2... That was a big sip.
It was a big sip. Okay, Scott says, in light of the Bundy Ranch events, what criteria or circumstances do you feel justify the raising of a militia? And how do we as citizens defend that militia as constitutional when the government wants to label it as domestic terrorism? Okay,
and just in case you've been living in a cave for the past week and a half or so, have been in a media blackout or what have you, you've been out in the woods hunting, what Scott's referring to here is, number one, the Bundy Ranch situation out there in Nevada. And we already discussed that. But in light of that, Senator Harry Reid came out and he decided that he needed to weigh in on this. Now, you might be saying to yourself, because you're smart, I know my audience is intelligent, all right, if this is a BLM matter, now what is the Bureau of Land Management? What department of the federal government does the Bureau of Land Management fall under? In 3, 2. Well, the correct answer, Alex, is what is the executive branch? And the executive branch of government is not the Senate. Now, what is Harry Reid? He's in the United States Senate, right? So that is the legislative branch. So you might be thinking to yourself, why is it that a senator who's a member of the legislative branch that is supposed to make law, why is he really super concerned about a tax issue and an issue that really involves the executive branch of government? Why would that be? Why does he feel the need to spend so much political capital and take so much time out of his ostensibly very busy schedule to talk about this. And recently, Harry Reid, he sat down with some sycophant from the media, and he basically was allowed, he had an open microphone to spew his propaganda and lies. One of the lies he said right off the bat was that Cliven Bundy has stated that he doesn't recognize the existence of the United States government. That is such a total lie. That's such total propaganda. But you're like, well, why would you even say a blatant, bald-faced lie like that?
Well, because people aren't paying attention. They're keeping this issue from the American populace.
Well, because they know that the low-information voter, the people that are more worried about twerking and tweaking and twatting or whatever they're doing, the people that are more worried about that, they just hear one line. And of course, your CNNs and MSNBCs and all your sycophant media, they'll just take that line and they'll run with it and over and over again. And just like Joseph Goebbels, man, you say a lie long enough times and it becomes the truth. Now, what we're going to do real quick is I'm going to let Jared cue up an audio clip from Senator Harry Reid, Dirty Harry, and we're going to hear in his own words what he thinks about you, the citizens of the United States of America.
Who hold themselves out to be patriots are not. They're nothing more than domestic terrorists.
All right. Well, according to Harry Reid, if you are a citizen and you've decided that it is your job, or basically it is your responsibility to be part of either a militia, or even if you're not part of an armed militia, if you just go forth with hands empty and protest the actions of the federal government, that you are somehow now a domestic terrorist. And where have we heard this before? Was it not Janet Big Sis Napolitano that issued a memorandum to all United States law enforcement? Was that like 3 years ago, Jared? You probably forgotten now because Americans have the attention span of a fruit fly. But Janet Napolitano issued a memorandum to American law enforcement stating that the following people should be watched closely. You need to keep an eye out for them. U.S. military veterans, returning servicemen, Tea Party members, members of the conservative Christian Party, conservative Christians, Tea Party members, returning military veterans. These are all people that should be watched as potential domestic terrorists. So if you fall into those categories out there, you might find it interesting that your own government thinks you need to be watched.
If you guys haven't seen the interview on, I think it was done on Fox, but you can find it on YouTube. It's Dennis Michael Lynch is a documentary filmmaker, and he's been down on the border of Texas, I guess, probably Texas, Arizona.
Arizona.
He basically said he stood face to face with cartel, and he has never seen the amount of firepower from the government there as was at Bundy Ranch.
Yeah, Dennis brought up a fantastic point in his interview on Fox. He said that BLM owns land. I don't know how it is that we've gotten to a point in our nation where the federal government can just walk into states. I thought we were supposed to like separation of the federal and the states. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I read the Constitution wrong. But how they can walk into states like Arizona and Texas and Nevada and you name it, claim the land to be federal government land. And what Dennis said, he goes, a lot of this BLM land is right down on the Mexican border. And he said they're doing nothing to keep illegal aliens, drug cartels, drug runners, coyotes bringing in illegals. They're doing nothing to stop them from going back and forth all day long, every day. But we've got a turtle tax dispute, and we're going to send 200 armed federal agents down to force someone to pay their turtle tax. Figure that out for yourself.
Can we take a little right turn for a second?
Okay.
Not a left turn at Albuquerque anyway.
Okay. Well, you want to take a right turn? What do you want to talk about?
A right turn. You just said that you may have read the Constitution wrong, and I kind of want you to talk about how it was simply written and for who to understand.
Well, yeah, if you actually did any studying and if you went to public school more than 20 years ago, you probably learned that the founding fathers, Hamilton, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, you name it, the people that were directly involved with writing the Constitution, they very purposely and deliberately kept the language simple and the total number of words in the entire Constitution to the minimum necessary. Now, if you read old stuff from 1775, 76, 77, what have you, you may think, oh, these are really flowery words, or they use 20 words or 30 words to get to the point that 5 could, be used for. But consider the bills that are put forth, the Affordable Care Act and all these other bills are put forth. They have tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of words just in one single bill, in one law. And why do you suppose that is? Do you suppose that these bills are so wordy and so lengthy and so drawn out that the average person is not going to invest 45 minutes to read one single bill? Or even if they do read it, they come away scratching their head thinking, I don't even know what I just read. What does this mean? Well, the Founding Fathers knew that trick or tactic had been used quite often in the past in human history to essentially keep the common people either out of the know, basically just to kind of hide it from them, or to make it so difficult or so contrived that they couldn't understand it. The Constitution of the United States is not a very long document. It's a very extremely important document, and a tremendous amount of thought and effort went into it. But it's deliberately short, and so is the Bill of Rights. If you haven't taken the time to read the entire Bill of Rights, 1 through 10, and the United States Constitution, A, shame on you, and B, it's not too late. You need to do it. But like Jared said, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, it was written very, very simply and very succinctly on purpose so that every American citizen, not just attorneys, not just senators, not just congressional staffers, not just those people could read it, but every single person in the United States could read it and understand it. It's there, black and white. Despite what you may have been told, it is not a confusing document. There's not a lot of gray area that's open for interpretation. If you read it honestly and straightforwardly, then you'll see, and if you know how to speak and read English, you'll see that it's kept simple on purpose. And if you want to talk about the Bundy incident or the Bundy situation with your family, with your friends, with your coworkers or whatever, before you even get into it, you might want to actually take the time to read the Bill of Rights, because this is what it all comes down to. What is the authority of the United States government versus the authority of the individual states and then the people of those states? Now, when we're talking about the people of the United States of America and the militia specifically, and our friend Scott says, how do we justify raising a militia? Well, the way you justify it is you go all the way back to the predating of the Constitution, to the predating of the Declaration of Independence. You go all the way back to the founding of this nation as a loose group of colonies, and you'll find that every organized community in the colonies in the United States, which wasn't even the United States of America yet, it was the new country, whether it was Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, what have you, they all had training bands, and we've talked about this before, but they had training bands and they had drill fields. If the little city or village community center, they had a field, and most of them had a liberty pole, and that is where they would gather either monthly or bi-monthly or, quarterly or what have you, whatever it happened to be in that area, whatever their schedule was. And every able-bodied man from age 18 to 45, and if we read, like for instance, Paul Revere's Ride, we've talked about that book before. It's a fantastic book. You should pick it up and read it. But if you read that, you'll see that there were actually kids, teenagers as young as 16, 15, 14 years old that accompanied the training bands. And then you had people that were way older than 55, up into their 50s and even 60s that accompanied the training bands. And the training bands were the militias. The militias were not designed to be professional career type endeavors. You didn't go into a militia and that became your job and that's how you made money. No, you just did it because you understood that it was, when it came down to it, it was the responsibility of the individual citizen to take care of his community. It wasn't some other faceless bureaucracy's responsibility. It was yours. And people understood that they couldn't just punt the responsibility off to somebody else because, well, it's not my job. That's somebody else's job. I'm going to sit over here and watch TV and let everyone else take care of the heavy lifting. Our founding fathers, our forefathers, they understood just as a matter of course that when it came down to it, the only person that was responsible for your health and safety and well-being was you, your neighbors, and your community. And that is, you don't, as a United States citizen, a citizen of the United States, and I don't mean someone who's here squatting or someone here who's here illegally, someone who actually has a vested interest in this country. You don't need to justify to anyone the formation of a training band or a militia or a Patriot fire team or whatever you want to call it. The justification is in the history and the founding of the United States. Now, for more recently than 1775 or 76, we had the Dick Act, which was what, 1904? What was the Dick Act?
1903 or 1904.
03 or 04. But anyway, you had the Dick Act, and basically the Dick Act went back and it examined, because when we founded the nation, all of the states, they still understood back in the 17 and 1800s that the citizens needed to be formed together in militias to defend the country. That's their job, their communities and the states and the country in general. And so what the Dick Act did is it actually kind of redefined or clarified some of the original language from the original laws that had to do with the militia. And you had an organized army, a United States Army, which was an official army that they were full-time. Then you had your National Guards, your state, Ohio, Pennsylvania, whatever, National Guard troops, which they're paid to do it, but obviously they're just part-timers. They just do it once in a while. And then the last, rung on the ladder there was the state militias. And in the Dick Act, it just affirmed that all citizens age 18 through 45 of good health, males, that they were part of the loosely organized citizens militia and that they had the right and authority to arm themselves just as the National Guard and the Army did. It's not really all that complex. But the fact of the matter is, if you go all the way back through the history of the United States up until the recent enlightened times where we've all decided that it's not our job to defend our families, we're just going to call 911 and someone will do it for us. But the militia is a time-honored tradition that goes all the way back to the founding of this nation. So you really don't need to defend that. What you need to do is you need to understand your rights as a citizen and your responsibilities as a citizen. You can't have freebies. You can't have rights without responsibilities. You must understand that it is your responsibility to take care of your family and to work with your neighbors in your community to take care of your community. Now, how do you do that? Well, you do that, number one, you do that by organizing, and when I say organizing, it doesn't have to be some kind of a formal sit down, we're going to have meetings and votes and elections and stuff. It could be as simple as talking to trusted friends, relatives, or neighbors and saying, hey, do you have enough food in your house to survive a week-long crisis, a 2-week-long crisis? If there was a hurricane next week, would you have enough food, water, and so forth to get yourselves through? Because let's face it doesn't matter how many guns or how much ammunition you have. If you don't have clean water to drink and you don't have food to eat, you're going to be miserable. You can't, shoot water out of the ground. And people are like, oh, I got my guns. I'm just going to, I'm going to shoot. I'm going to live off the land. I'm going to shoot rabbits and squirrels and deer and all that. It's like, okay, dude. Whatever. If that's what you think, rock on. But I think unless you've done that already once, I don't think in a post-hurricane, post-tornado, post-earthquake situation that if you've not already gone out and learned to live off the land by killing deer and rabbits and squirrels and stuff, just thinking that you're going to be able to make it up on the spur of the moment, it's a little bit delusional. But hey, live your life as you want to. So what I would say, and what we've done through not necessarily Student of the Gun, but what Jared and I did, and we've talked about this before, but we'll talk about it again. And what's Paul wearing today?
If you can't see him right now, you should go look. He's leaning off to the side, showing the camera his awesome shirt.
That's right. I'm wearing my Patriot Fire Team T-shirt, the official Patriot Fire Team T-shirt that you can get from PatriotFireTeam.com. But what's more important than anything else is the PatriotFireTeam.com. What that is that's your guidepost. That's where you get started. And, you know, a lot of you folks are out there. You're like maybe like Scott here. And you're thinking, well, I know I should be doing something, but what? Or where should I start? Or, you know, I feel like I kind of know what I'm doing, but my friends don't, or my relatives don't, or where can I send, you know, other concerned citizens? They have questions and so forth. Send them over to PatriotFireTeam.com. Now, you have something to say?
I was just looking at you thinking.
Okay. How awesome I am and what a great host I am. That's what you're doing?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
But now there's one little tiny catch or one little asterisk, and I'm gonna go ahead and share that with you. Some people have said, well, if you have a special report, how to get started, Patriot Fire Team, why don't you just put it on the Facebook, or not Facebook page? Why don't you put it on the website page so everybody can read it regardless? Well, what we want with a Patriot Fire Team, or what we're hoping to achieve, is we're hoping to get people that are genuinely serious about it, that are genuinely dedicated, that are serious about protecting themselves and their families, and that actually have an investment in that.
And for all of you that have already signed up, I'm very impressed by the conversion rate that we have had. Almost everybody that's signed up has included themselves in a conversation, or at least emailed us and let us know that they're involved and they want to do something. And I really appreciate that.
Well, the only thing that we ask is we have the special report, Patriot Fire Team, how to get started, and it's got the 1, 2, 3 step-by-step way to go. And all you have to invest is your first name and your email address. That's it. And well, go ahead, Jared.
I was just going to say, right now we're going to do a monthly newsletter that's going to have an article. Dad's going to write an article, and we're going to do special deals on, like, I don't want to say, I guess it is prepper stuff, but when you say the word prepper, people think of,
because it's got pejorative. We learned to make fun of preppers, but the fact is my grandma was a prepper. What? Your grandma was a prepper? Yeah. My grandparents knew that you needed to have food in your house because the people that lived in that house were always going to be hungry.
It's called reality.
It's called life. Yeah, my grandparents, they weren't preppers so much as they were just people that knew that you always needed food and you always needed water, and you couldn't always get in the car and drive to the grocery store 24 hours a day. So you kind of needed to have it with you. But if you are not confident enough, or you're not serious enough about this situation to invest your first name and your email address, then you're not serious about it. And, they're like, well, you should just give me everything for free. Should I just come to your house and type it in on your computer for you and move your little mouse around and click it for you and type into the, Google search engine for you? If you can't invest your first name and your email address to get something that could save your life or potentially make your life and the life of your family better, then you're not serious, and we'll just see you later. We'll see you in the food line when the crisis starts. But when it comes down to Scott's question, number one, do you have to justify being in a militia? No, you don't. Now, there is truth to the fact that the big media and they're in cahoots with the government. If you think that MSNBC, CNN, you name it, ABC, if you think that they're not in direct cahoots with the federal government, if you don't think they take their talking points and run with them, you're a little bit naive, and you need to get your head out of your rectum. Let's face facts. Listen to Rush, listen to not so much Hannity, but listen to Rush, listen to Beck, listen to Michael Savage, listen to anybody. And they point out continuously how Jay Carney and the White House Press Secretary Corps will come out and they will issue a statement, and then almost immediately every big news media, CBS, NBC, whatever, will just parrot those words verbatim over and over and over again. That's why people like Harry Reid will say domestic terrorist, or these people are domestic terrorists, because they know that the sycophant media is just going to pick it up and say it over and over and over again, so that the low information dolts in America are like, well, I think he should just pay his taxes, blah, 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 blah. Before we let you go on this one, I am going to mention that our friends James Yeager and Dave Biggers and Jack Clemens and I don't know, Jay's Reed Hendrick, that they've been working on a project called Ammo Nation, and just AMMO Nation. They've got a YouTube channel. They got Facebook, right?
Yeah, I think their website's ammonation.org.
Ammonation.org or something, or .net or .something. But anyway, just type in AMMO Nation, Ammo Nation. And the reason we're bringing it up is because James and Reed and Jack went out to Nevada a week or so ago, and they actually sat down with Cliven Bundy. They turned the cameras on, and Reed did an unedited interview with Mr. Bundy and asked him some very pointed questions. You know, why do you think this? And never once did he say that he didn't believe or didn't recognize the United States government. He never said that the United States government was a foreign government. It's all a bunch of bull crap. And before any of your friends, you listen to any of your friends or coworkers or neighbors about it, you might want to actually educate yourself. And instead of getting third-hand or fourth-hand information, educate yourself. It's free. It's out there. You got the time. Go ahead and do it. So, Jared, do you have that link, Jared, the Ammo Nation link?
I'm looking for the actual website because it's not ammonation.org.
Oh, it's ammonation. something or other. Anyway, there's a YouTube channel, and we're going to see if we can get Jared to go ahead and put that in the show notes for you guys. Now, remember, if you want to see the show notes, you want to check out the show notes, and make sure you're going to Student of the Gun Radio, all together there, studentofthegunradio.com. Now, you can link directly to Student of the Gun Radio, Student of the Gun TV, the Student of the Gun Facebook page, Instagram, all that jazz, if you have the Student of the Gun mobile app. That's right. If you have a mobile app, and where do you put it on your little smartphone, your little iPhone, your little iPad,
your big iPad,
your whatever.
And I just this morning was the first step of the version 2 of the app. So okay. I've started working on that. I've got a big enough list to correct everything. So we are working on that, just so you guys know.
And it is free to you guys. Go to the iTunes store. Go to iTunes and just type in Student of the Gun, and it'll come up with the app, and you can download it. Or you can go to the Google Play Store if you have an Android device, download it. And you can listen every week when the radio comes up. As soon as the RSS feed hits, it's there, so you can stream it directly from the app. And you can check out the latest articles. And just, cool stuff. Like, for instance, yesterday we were out at the range and we did some filming for the TV show, and Jared snapped a few pictures, and, he puts those pictures up on the Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all that jazz. So check it out. It is the Student of the Gun mobile app, and it is free for you because of our friends at Century Arms who sponsored it. They are the official sponsor of the mobile app. Now, Jared, are we ready to move on and talk about cross dominance?
Yeah, let's talk about cross dominance. We've had a couple questions. The most recent was from our buddy Kurt up there in Cincinnati, Ohio. He was at the NRA show. Did you see the picture?
I didn't get one. He
sent me a picture of him and Yeager, and he had a Student of the Gun shirt on. And he said that Yeager was a really, really good guy.
Oh, excellent. I'm glad that he listened. We as you know, if you're watching this, or maybe you don't know, I don't know. This weekend, as we record this, is the NRA annual meeting up in Indianapolis, Indiana. And we did not go. And the reason we did not go is, number one, we needed to make radio for you guys. But number two, we are very heavily into the production of Student of the Gun TV season number 5. And, until we learn how to clone Jared and make 2 or 3 of him, he can only be so many places at so many times.
I don't think the world's ready for that.
Probably not. I don't think we are either. But we were out. We spent all weekend basically working on TV. We were out at the range. We were recording Black Rifle Boot Camp segments. We did a special segment about the Pocket Lifesaver and how you can actually save somebody's life in a traumatic injury situation. So that's all coming up. And if you haven't been watching Student of the Gun TV, shame on you. But if you've got Dish Network, you don't have an excuse. Dish Network channel 266, 9 o'clock Monday nights. And we are working on brand new material for the show right now. So let's talk about cross dominance. We're talking about eye dominance. Now, one of the great things about working with young people, kids, youth, what have you, is they don't have really any bad habits that you need to break. And most of them really don't have any predisposed notions about firearms. And, they might have seen this or that and they think they know. But normally within one training session, you can get rid of all those predisposed notions and learn to work with the kids just kind of like a blank slate or an empty sponge, And many, many years ago, what I learned from the 4-H, and the 4-H shooting sports does a fantastic job teaching young people to use shotguns, rifles, pistols, archery equipment, muzzleloaders and what have you. And the first thing that they do before they even let a kid pick up a bow or a shotgun or what have you, is they find out what the kid's eye dominance is. Because, hey, human beings, Homo sapiens, that's you out there, you have either a right eye dominant or left eye dominant. Now, some people are cross dominant, and it changes. But generally, what you'll find, and you live your own life, you will know that either your left eye tends to be more dominant than your right, or your right eye tends to be more dominant than your left. Well, how does that work? Well, number one, if you have never shot a firearm in your life, you've never shot a bow or what have you, the first thing you should do is you should figure out which is your strongest eye and which is your dominant eye. And let's say it's your left or let's say it's your right. Well, I always use this example, but it's an excellent example. My daughter is left-handed. She's been left-handed all her life. She just naturally eats with her left hand. She writes with her left hand. She does, all that stuff with her left hand. But when we started her in 4-H shooting sports when she was about, 10 years old, we determined that she was indeed right eye dominant. So what the instructors did, the archery instructor in particular, taught her to shoot using her dominant right eye. And then she advanced to shotgun, doing sporting clays and skeet and trap. She shoots rifle a little bit, not a lot, and she also shoots a good amount of pistol. So even though she is left-handed, she does all of her shooting sports activities right-handed because that is her dominant eye. And the great thing about kids is you don't have to reteach them. They haven't been, doing it their whole lives the opposite way. Now, older people, especially older men, are stubborn like army mules. They're just, you're like, it's a bunch of crap. I'm just going to wink my eye. And I've been winking my eye my whole life, and it's always worked out well for me. You know what? Fantastic. If you've got your way, and that's the way you want to do it, keep doing it. I don't care. But if you want to know a way to excel and to improve, you might want to think about using your dominant eye. Now, cross dominance. I'm not an optician, and I didn't even say it, or optometrist or ophthalmologist or any kind of opta anything. And I didn't even say it at Holiday Inn Express last night. But what I would say is what you're going to need to figure out, whether left or right, which one seems to be the most dominant. Now you say, if you're a person that you wake up each morning and your eye has switched from one day to the next, brothers and sisters, I don't even know what to say to you. Jared, what do you say to somebody who's like, well, I wake up Tuesday morning and I'm left eye dominant, and I wake up Thursday morning and I'm right eye dominant, and then Saturday I'm left eye again? Or
you learn to shoot with both hands?
Yeah, I guess learn to shoot with both. Now, I will give you this little tidbit. I'll give you this tidbit. Number one, regardless of what eye dominance you are, if you are shooting a handgun, right or left, it's really pretty easy because when you punch the gun out, you're going to see your front sight. Now, if you're right-handed and you're left eye dominant, all you have to do is cant the gun over a little bit to line up that with your dominant eye. Same thing, left versus right. If it's in your left hand and your right eye dominant, all you have to do is cant the pistol ever so slightly to get that front sight up in front of your eye. So handgun shooting really is pretty simple. Don't be afraid to tilt the gun a little bit. It doesn't make you a gangster just because you tilt the gun a little bit. Line up the big, and you should have a big, clearly visible front sight on your gun. If you punch the gun out and you're sitting there for a couple seconds thinking, where is that front sight? I can't find it. It's time for a new front sight. Now, when it comes to rifles or long guns, the EOTech optic, the EOTech holographic weapon sight, HWS, is a fantastic tool for people with any kind of vision. Right eye, left eye, doesn't matter. And the reason that is because it is a projected hologram. We talked about this before, but indulge me for a moment. Because it's a projected hologram, as long as the dot, the center aiming dot of the reticle of the EOTech, as long as it's zeroed with the bore of the gun, it doesn't matter when you're looking through the optic whether the reticle is in the upper right corner, left corner, lower left, lower right. It doesn't really matter where it is in the housing as long as you've got the dot on your target, because it is a hologram, right? It's not, that hologram is not fixed into the center of the optic, not like a rifle scope with crosshairs. And I had a situation many, many years ago. I say many, I'm probably talking about 5 years ago by now, where I had a student come through the military school that I was training, and she was an intelligence specialist. She was an analyst. And as you can imagine, the United States military, when they have people that are in the intelligence field, in the language fields, in the analyst fields, those people, it takes a lot of time and effort and money to train them, to get them up to speed. The schools and what have you. And those people are not really a dime a dozen. It's a lot easier to get people to go stack boxes onto the back of a truck than it is to get an intelligence analyst all schooled up. Well, she was undergoing a situation with her eyes where she had macular degeneration, and she had frequent double vision, and she had a hard time with her eyes. As a matter of fact, when she went to renew her driver's license, she was not able to renew her driver's license with her state because of her vision. It was that bad. But she was getting ready to deploy to Afghanistan. Yes, that's right. This woman was in the United States military, active duty, and she was getting ready to deploy to Afghanistan as an intelligence analyst. And before she could go, she had to go through the firearms training portion. Well, she was able to pass the handgun portion without much of a problem. When it came to the rifle part, using standard iron sights on an M4 rifle, she was having a terrible time. It was very difficult. She was like using Kentucky windage like a crazy person. And so what I was able to do is, because the M4 has a removable carrying handle, I pulled that off, and I happened to have one of the new EOTech optics in my pack. And I pulled it out. I put it on there. I zeroed it real quick. I gave her the rifle, and I told her to look at it. And she had never used an EOTech in her life. It was a brand new thing to her. And she got down behind the rifle, and she tried to use her previous Kentucky windage that she had used with the iron sights. And so I was kind of, I didn't realize she was doing it, and she was missing the target. And I was like, well, what are you doing? She goes, oh, I'm trying to hold it here and hold it there. And I said, well, just try and hold the aiming dot on the target. Folks, she qualified with the rifle the first time all the way through with that EOTech. Macular degeneration, double vision, and couldn't even hold a driver's license, and she was able to qualify with the rifle. And we did a night qualification. She maxed the night qualification. So if you're having vision issues, sometimes you can get new sights, new optics, and what have you, and they will help you out a little bit.
I don't want to cut his story short, but we're running up on time. We're almost at 40 minutes here, and we want to get into let's talk about Detroit a little bit more. I'm very proud of the chief of police, really, because he hasn't succumbed to the requests of the
peer pressure of the whiny people.
The whiny people.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit before when we did our Motor City Madhouse, and they won't stop up there in Detroit. We've got citizens. We have people that they're the few remaining good citizens in the city of Detroit, the ones who have not fled or been murdered or what have you, or who are not welfare slaves. You've got the few citizens up there that are actually trying to survive. They have bars on their windows. They have cameras. They have alarm systems. They have all this stuff. And so finally, Chief James Craig came out, and he's only been the chief of police from Detroit for a couple of years now. He came from somewhere else, so this was kind of a new situation to him. And, he told him, he's like, look, people, you need to arm yourselves because we can't be everywhere at all times to protect you. You need to arm yourselves. Well, they did. The people of Detroit took that to heart, and they have armed themselves. And so you would think, well, go team. And these are not just – this is where you got to be really careful because the other side of the argument they're trying to portray this as whitey versus not whitey, and that's not the case at all. You have people of color that are homeowners that are having their homes broken into by other people of color, and they're having to use firearms to defend themselves. And they've done it I think at this time it's 8, 9, 10 shootings in the last 2 months where people have broken into someone else's home and they've gotten shot for their efforts. And, what I had to say about that is tough noogies, Tango Sierra. Maybe you might want to stop breaking into people's homes. I know, that's crazy. Well, this story right here comes to us from MLive.com news, and it says Detroit, Michigan. Detroit Police Chief James Craig, on a day when another citizen, it appears, shot and killed a criminal in the act of breaking into their home, addressed criticisms that his support for armed citizens constitutes an advocacy of vigilantism. We talked about this. And it says one of his critics, Ron Scott, founder of the Detroit Coalition Against Police Brutality. Now, hang on a second. Let's examine that. We have Mr. Ron Scott. I bet you Mr. Ron Scott wears bow ties. What do you think, Jared?
I would assume
if I had to put money on it, I think he's a bow tie wearing leftist. He's the founder of Detroit Coalition Against Police Brutality. So how does a situation that includes homeowners and citizens shooting home invading scum, vermin, felons, okay, how is that? How does Mr. Scott, when he's against police brutality, how does that fall in? Well, Mr. Scott, he said, didn't like the use of Craig's language identifying good versus bad citizens, which he believes creates an unnecessary divisiveness. Chew on that for a second. So, according to Mr. Ron Scott, the co-founder or the founder of Detroit Coalition Against Police Brutality, he doesn't like the fact that the chief of police refers to people as good or bad. Well, Mr. Scott, let me tell you how the real world works, you turd. There are good people in the world, and you know what? There are bad people in the world, and there always have been and there always will be. And the responsibility of the good people of the world is not only to take care of their families and their friends and their community, but it is to be prepared to deal with apparently what you think is your constituency, which is the bad people of the world. Scott also condemned what he believes are situations in which police come to conclusions of self-defense prematurely and publicly before the completion of the full investigation. Well, let me break it down for you, Mr. Scott. We had the video of a situation where Detroit homeowner uses cheap gun to defend life. We have video of 3 scumbags in the wintertime, because there's snow on the ground, beating on the door of a home. The woman inside runs and grabs her gun and says, "I have a gun, leave." They don't leave. They smash in her door, and these 3 scumbags burst into her house. She fires a gun at them. Unfortunately, she didn't kill them. She fires a gun at them, and they run out. One of them trips over himself, drops his gun, picks it up, and tries to engage the home-owning woman again. She fires more shots, and they run away. We've all seen this, or at least some of us have seen this. Now, Mr. Scott, explain to me how that is an alleged home defense situation. Are you kidding me? If I did not invite you into my home, if you broke a window or a door and entered my home illegally and I shoot you, why are you there? Am I supposed to make you tea and ask you about your intentions, Mr. Scott? This is wrong, it's sick, and it's disgusting. But the good news is, it appears that the people in the city of Detroit are not having any of Mr. Scott's divisiveness and bullcrap. So go team Chief James Craig, and go team citizens of the city of Detroit, the Motor City. Now, folks, that's going to bring us right up to the end of part number 1. We actually had to pull a segment. We're going to put it in number 2. Now, come right back with us in the second part of this week's episode. We're going to talk about home defense and how some people are doing it wrong. We've got slave state news for you coming out of Colorado. And then we have a special vagination report. And what state does this come out of? Oh, the People's Republic of California. Is that correct, Jared? Yes. So we got a People's Republic of California vagination report. So make sure you stick with us. Now, don't forget, you're a beginner once. And what are you, Jared?
You're a student for life.
Bingo.